Welcome to the One Rental to Freedom podcast, creative investing strategies for building wealth and financial freedom through rentals. I'm your host, Chad Harris. All right, how do we buy rentals in this market, pay a high price, and still cash flow? That's a question a lot of people are wrestling with. If that's a question you've wrestled with, or if you've always been interested in how do you do a subject to deal, what does it mean to do a lease option or a master lease, make sure you stick around for our conversation today because we're going to dive into the details of just that. This is the One Rental to Freedom podcast. If you want to buy rentals, increase cash flow, and build wealth, you are in the right place. So, Lindsay Jensen, welcome to the podcast. We've talked about this for a while. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
Yes, I'm excited. Thanks for having me, Chad.
Yeah. So we have shared stages together and been in masterminds together, and I feel like we have talked so many times over the years, but you haven't been on the podcast yet. So
I know.
I'm glad it finally worked
Here we
out.
are.
Yeah, here we are. So, for everybody listening or watching, go ahead and share just a little bit about who you are, what your business is, and what you've built today.
All right. So growing up, my dad was a real estate appraiser, so I got bit by the owning real estate bug pretty early on. And in 2016, after having my first kid, I realized going back to work full time was just not going to cut it for me. I'd always wanted to invest in real estate, and I thought, okay, now is the time to do that. So, quit what I was doing in marketing. I still had a company that I owned, an SEO company that I was still doing on the side, um, and just started investing in real estate. And started off by thinking, oh, I want to do flipping because that's what everyone thinks they want to do when they start, right?
Yeah.
Read a couple books that kind of changed my perspective on that. And I was like, no, I want this long term rental income that's going to free me, not another job. So,
Amen.
amen,
Yeah.
right? Yes. So I changed that thought process and found a mentor locally here in Colorado Springs that was doing exactly what I wanted to do and could teach me to do the creative deals, the subject to the lease purchases, another one that lived here taught me master leasing, but I somehow was lucky enough to have two amazing mentors right here that were able to teach me these things. And within the first 8 years, built a $12 million portfolio. And, that was a couple of years ago. I think I'm in year 10 now. And we're looking at, we're not ready to retire yet, but the really cool thing is that we've learned if we were to rearrange our portfolio just right, both my husband and I could retire off of what we've built now. I always like to tell people that, and I don't want it to sound like bragging. I think it's really cool because everybody always thinks of real estate as being something that's going to take them years to be able to retire from. And if you focus and do it right, it really doesn't take as long as you think it's going to. I always tell people the next 5 years is going to go by anyway. So why not start building something that's going to change your life?
Amen. Yeah, I love it. So, man, there's a bunch to unpack there, but one thing I love is that you, like in the beginning, you're like, oh, let's do flipping. We'll get some quick cash, right? We'll get those big checks.
Yep.
And what was the transition? Like, what was it that actually gave you the confidence to say, no, I'm going to put aside the big checks up front and build this portfolio, this wealth for someday, right? To build in 8 years, $12 million portfolio, that's amazing.
I think it wasn't even the confidence, it was the thought process behind what I really wanted, which was the lifestyle that the repeat income and the retirement gives you. And so I read Gary Keller's real estate investor book. It's blue. I
Okay.
believe that's the title of it, but it's by Gary Keller, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. That's what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I read that, and there was a bunch of different people in there explaining what their job looked like with investing. There were flippers, there were buy and hold. I liked the description and the way people described their lives of the people who did the buy and holds. And that's where my mindset shifted. So it wasn't even a speaker or anything. It was that one book that changed my mind into wanting to do more of the buy and hold, what most people think takes a longer period of time, but in my opinion is actually better towards freedom.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. So for anybody listening who hasn't been on my webinar, the webinar I do monthly now, One Rental to Freedom, goes through that exact model where if you just acquire 10 properties over time, everything works in your favor, right?
Yes.
The houses go up in value, the rents go up, the debt gets paid down.
Yep.
Just time on is on your side.
Yes.
And just in that webinar, we go through the model and you become a millionaire in 6 years. Just 6 years, right?
Yes.
Hustle on the front end,
Yes.
let time do the work. Millionaire in 6 years.
And that's funny because my before the 8 year thing came, it was I had built a $10 million portfolio in 6 years. And so we were literally on paper millionaires by that point in time. So your 6 year mark is it resonates very much with me.
Sure.
It's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the question everybody might be thinking is like, oh, well, maybe Lindsay could do it, but I could never do that. Was there some special, did you know a bunch of people who knew, had tons of money they wanted to lend you? Did you have some secret method for finding sellers, or was it just consistent hard work and creative financing? What would you attribute the success to?
I think it was focus. So I did creative, but I learned one piece at a time. The thing is with creative, the seller will kind of dictate the strategy for you, right? So if you really listen to what they're saying, it'll be like, oh, subject two won't work on this one, a lease won't work on this one, or whatever it is. And so I learned subject two first, and then certain other ones just kind of popped up, and someone was like, oh, try this strategy instead. So I learned one piece at a time, but it was still focusing on here's one way to market. So I found I marketed basically one way. I started stacking once I got better, but I just started by direct mail and marketing to certain types of people. So it was focus because I only went on a handful of seller appointments every single month because I was a full time mom at home. I had two babies at home. When I started in 2016, I was pregnant with my second. So the first deal we took down, I was 7 months pregnant on a 0% seller financed deal. So
Man, that's awesome.
it's fun, but like, yeah, it's focus. And then being in the right rooms of people that you can ask the questions to, I think is also what helped. So then on the opposite end is that my exit strategy was almost always the same. There was a few times that I either wholesaled it or flipped it. And in the beginning, I partnered on those deals with other people. I let them wholesale it and I let them flip it because I didn't know enough and I didn't have enough bandwidth to handle more than one exit strategy. My exit strategy was into a rental. And
Nice.
so that's the system I had built. That's what I had going for me. So if it didn't go into that system, I partnered with someone else to handle all of the and I just took a cut.
Cool. So, okay, before we dive into the details of the nitty-gritty how to do it, two questions. One, now on the back end, you've stuck to buy and hold. Do you regret going the buy and hold route versus the flip route now
Oh
in
my God, no.
hindsight?
No. Because the ones that I did flip, and the only reason we flipped certain ones is because they were in bad areas or something like that. That money disappears so quick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any of that money left anymore.
That's awesome. I think plenty of people can debate on the front end whether they should keep the property or flip the
Mhm.
property, but on the back end, nobody
There's
debates
no
it.
debate. Mm-mm.
Yeah, everybody is glad they've held, right?
Yes,
Nobody is
exactly.
glad that they
Mm-hmm.
sold 10 years ago.
No.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, second question. You closed the deal 7 months pregnant, and it was a 0% interest deal.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask, did your child's name have zero in it, or was
It didn't. Her name is Skylar, but
Okay,
It
good
should have that
choice.
that would have been fun.
Had to ask. All right, so let's dive into the how to. For somebody who's like struggles with just conceptually, what does it mean for a subject to deal versus a lease option deal or a master lease? Kind of explain for people what that means. What do those deals look like?
The funny thing is they're all super similar. Slightly different paperwork and can have different tax consequences or different just some different um ways of handling the seller's needs, I guess. Okay. So they're
Okay.
very similar, but completely different tools. So, for instance, with a subject to, the loan stays in the seller's name, but the house is going to transfer to the buyers. So the title will transfer, seller keeps the loan. Okay. Um, yeah, and there's all kinds of controversy around that whole topic now. But those of us that have been doing it for a long time really believe in it, and it's something that sellers really need. Now, lease purchases or lease options, um, those can be handled really interestingly because, for instance, I was just telling you that there's a deal that I was helping someone with today where the the seller cannot sell for 2 years because of the type of loan that they have. So they can't sell. So I advised this person, I said, well, this person will feel like they've sold it if you use a lease purchase, but they haven't technically sold it. You handle everything from the payment of the mortgage, taxes, and insurance to they can also start paying them their equity, which the seller didn't think they could get right now because they're thinking they're going to have to wait 2 years. Um, but the good news for the buyer is they now use that to start paying them now, but pay them that equity over time. And it's considered rents instead of capital gains. And
I
so
love that. So
when they
the
act,
seller is motivated right now. You don't
yes,
want to say, "Oh, I'll buy your house in 2 years" when you're able to
yes,
sell, right? They
yes,
have a pain point right now and they're motivated. And with the creative strategy, you can solve their pain point now, but still not what legally take ownership of the property for two
correct.
years so that they avoid whatever bad consequences they have to avoid.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yep.
And what about a master lease? What does it look like?
So a master lease is literally just you're renting from the owner and then subleasing to an occupant tenant. And this is something that I didn't really step into doing that until 2021 because like the whole market shifted in 2021, as we all know, with COVID and everything. And so a lot of my normal deals they just weren't penciling the same way anymore. People had hundreds and thousands of equity in their house. Their houses, if they put them on the market, were selling instantaneously, and they were selling for more than they wanted, right? So
Yeah.
they weren't at the pain point in where they needed lease options or subject twos at that point, which was fine. So I just shifted into master leasing, which not only gives me monthly income on these houses, but it also I get options with most of my master leases, first right of refusal to purchase the property. And so this puts me in a position. Let me give you a for instance. In December, unfortunately, one of my owners passed away. And so the next of kin needed to sell the rental property that I was taking care of for them. I had first right of refusal on the property to purchase it and was able to give them a cash offer that allowed me to wholesale it because there was a lot going on in my life in December. I didn't want to flip this property. So I was able to actually wholesale this for $15,000,
Nice.
is amazing. And all I'm doing is taking care of a property along with all my other properties on a monthly basis. It just fits right into my system. But it puts me in the line of knowing immediately when someone's done with a property. I'm the first to know, which is what all real estate investors want. They want to be the first to know
That's
when
right.
someone's done with their property.
Most of us are sending out a whole bunch of letters to try to be the first one to find out, right? The first one
Yes.
they'll call when they're
Yep.
actually motivated.
Yep.
or bandit signs or whatever else we're doing.
Yep.
And yeah, with the master lease, then you are automatically the first to know.
Yep.
Sure. So, okay. So I love the idea that people get overwhelmed with these different creative strategies,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes.
just the jargon or the lingo or the words you use, subject to and a lease option and a master lease. Oh my. But I really like what you said earlier that the seller's situation pretty much dictates what you use or what your offer is.
Hmm.
And I'm sure when you make an offer to the seller, you're not really going into those words. It's more, I'll give you this much down and I'll make your payment, or
Correct.
you're phrasing it in terms of how it impacts them more
Yep.
than the legal document.
Exactly.
So walk us through, let's say you have a seller who reaches out to you one way or another from direct mail or a referral. They hear that you buy properties. How do you have that conversation, or what questions do you try to ask to know, okay, this lines up with a subject to deal, or this is a better fit for a lease option versus master lease?
It's funny because my first question to all of them is kind of simple and informal, but it works really well. I just say, tell me what's going on here. Tell me why you're looking to sell this property. Like what's happening. And then I'm just quiet. And most of the time, just as simple as that is, they spill everything. And it'll be a lot of personal stuff sometimes. Sometimes it might be things you don't want to know, don't need to know, and you just let them go. And so, but it does tell you a lot about the pain points if you're listening correctly. And then at some point, when you're ready to start answering or asking the other questions, you say, look, I think I can help you with this, but I need to ask a few personal questions. Is that okay? And I've never had a no. So that's when I start asking, how much do you owe on the mortgage? What is your monthly payment? Just these little things that we need to know because that'll immediately tell you if a sub two is even a possibility or if a lease purchase is a possibility. Or if their payment is way too high, you're going to be like, look, you're going to know maybe not to spend so much time on that deal. Maybe it's completely, the payment is so high, you can't do anything with it no matter what. And you go, you know what, here's your options. And you give them a bunch of options, even though you're maybe not one of them. And you go, you might need to talk to a short sale specialist or whatever the case may be. But at least it tells you don't spend time here. Or it will lay out for you, oh, okay, I can work this as a subject to, or ooh, a subject to would work, but then they said this, they can't sell for 2 years. Let's move on to a lease option.
Okay, sure. So what I'm hearing is that when you're having that conversation, you're not positioned as they're the seller who has a pain point and you're the buyer who's trying to negotiate them as low as possible. You're positioned more as, tell me about the situation. What's the solution you want to have? Let's see if we can figure out a way to provide that. Is that
Yep,
right?
100%. Yeah. The negotiation may come later when it's exactly how much equity they get or how to get it done a little bit, but there's not much negotiating if you've done the upfront. How do we solve this person's issue correctly?
Right. And to me, that's an easier conversation because
Yeah.
it's like you're both on the same side of the table. You're not competing.
Yeah.
You're not negotiating against each other.
Yes.
You have this problem that they're in, and you're both working together on a solution.
Yep.
That's nice.
I had a deal where this couple needed to sell their house. I asked them what they wanted. They gave me the price of 45,000, which was an incredibly good deal. But their issue was they had to time the sale of it perfectly so that she could purchase her dad's house who had passed away from probate. But they had to go through a lot of probate issues with the rest of her family in order to get that house. So this was something I just followed up on. It was almost a year later, and they called me and said, okay, we're ready to take your deal now. And I said, okay. So we closed at the $45,000 one. And when I was asking them what it was that they liked about my offer and why they went with me and all of that, they said actually we had higher offers. So they had higher cash offers, but they said they felt like I was the only one that cared if they actually had a place to live because everyone else was pressuring them to sell right now.
Yeah,
But I
that's
was
huge.
listening to the fact that they couldn't sell until this other thing got fixed.
Yeah, I love that. And I know from experience, way too many investors or wannabe investors overlook that fact of just that personal connection and taking an actual interest in the seller. And I've gotten deals because I listened to them. I listened to the story about their brother or their father or experiences they had in the house. I've gotten deals because they thought I reminded them of themselves when they got it started investing,
Yeah.
right? Things that have nothing to do with price or the
Yes.
terms or anything else, but just because I'm relatable.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, so for anybody listening, don't overlook that fact, right? Take the time to take an interest in the seller, work out a solution with them, um, and share who you are and why you do what you do, right? So that they like you and trust you.
And
So,
as a beginning investor, that should take off all the pressure, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, completely. You don't have to worry about saying the exact right word or
Nope.
the specific script or
Nope.
anything like that. It's just a relaxed conversation of, here's what we're trying to get to. We need to solve this problem. What are some ways we can do it?
Yep.
So,
100%.
and
Take off all that pressure because honestly, it works better just having a conversation than any kind of script you could ever use.
yeah. And if you get to a situation where you don't know how to solve that problem, you can even just say it at that point,
Yeah.
right? I'm not sure how to get around this payment. Let me talk to some other investor friends of mine and I'll see if I can find a solution, right? That's
Yeah.
acceptable when you're both on the same side, not competing.
I always said, let me go brainstorm with my partner and let me see what
Nice.
options I can get back to you with.
Sure.
And nobody minds that. And how nice is that? Because as a beginner, and that's what I used as a beginner because I didn't know all my options yet. I didn't know, I was still learning how to structure. So I said, let me go talk with my partner about the best way to solve this for you.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
And that actually gives you more credibility because you're honest and you have a partner that is very experienced,
Yep.
right?
Hmm. Yep.
That would have an answer. I like that. So, okay, so let's look at like some actual numbers.
Okay.
If you have a seller calling and let's say the house is, I don't know, $300,000, you ask about the mortgage. The mortgage is what? $2,000 a
Okay.
month. And the rent is 2,400 in the area.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't planned this example out, so we don't know whether
We're
that
just
works or not.
this. Okay.
So, what would you need to know if that works as a subject to deal?
Well, automatically my brain is going, this is looking good, right? Because as long as I can get in my particular area, as long as I can get the rent to cover the mortgage, that's my number one first look. Um, then I would see my next thing that I would look at is what is the value of the house? Are they underwater or do they have some equity? Okay. The next thing I would look at is what's the condition of the house? Do I have to put a lot of money into it in order to get it rent ready? Okay, so all
Okay,
of these things can be guidelines into how you structure this deal.
so let's say the house is in great condition. They're, good homeowners, but one of them got sick and lost their job and they're just tight on cash and maybe a payment behind.
Yep, that's easy. So I've
And they
literally
have,
had
we'll
this happen.
say, $50,000 in equity
Okay.
as a ballpark.
So this is pretty easy because let's say they have 50,000 in equity, but you say, okay, the house is worth 300,000. You owe 250. But I'm going to walk them through if you were to put this on the market right now for 300,000, you're not going to net 300,000 because you have to pay off your mortgage. So that leaves you with 50. But there's also real estate expenses in there. You're going to have to pay a realtor to sell it, which is normally about 6%, and closing costs, which is 1 to 2%, depending where you're at. So I would minus out about 7% from that 50,000 that's going to go somewhere else. I'm also going to say, look, I'm not even going to count this right now, but you're going to have holding costs because there's going to be more mortgage payments that you're missing. In this market right now that we're in, they're going to be lucky if they can sell it in the 3 months before it starts to go to foreclosure, which kind of negates any of their equity anyway. So I'm
Hmm.
going to negotiate something that works a little bit better for me for them to get their equity out. And you could go anything from I'm going to pay you your 25,000 right away. Like let's just say we settle on 25. I'm going to pay you 25 right away. Um or if you're willing to wait on it, I'll pay you 50 later and you get paid when I get paid. So you get nothing now, but I catch up your mortgage, or not 50, but whatever we decide on without that spread, right? So I'm going to talk them down from that 50 number. So maybe I just say, if I pay you everything now, you'll get 15. If you wait, I'll pay you 35. You get paid when I get paid, you get the full amount of your equity. Or we can work something in the middle. So we could say, hey, look, I know you need some money to move. I'll give you $5,000 now. That way you have money to move, secure a new place. I'll catch up your mortgage and then I'll pay you monthly as long as, there's enough spread to do that, $200 a month until I've paid you another 10 grand.
Cool. Can you also do it where you don't have any extra monthly payment? Just at some point in the future, there's a balloon for that extra 10
Yeah,
grand.
exactly. So that's where there's nothing up front, no monthly payment. I just say, hey, you get paid when I get paid. It's the best cash option for them. When I sell the property, they'll get that $35,000 or whatever we've negotiated on the back
Yeah.
end. Yep.
I love it. I love it. And
Yeah.
in that instance, right, if they want whatever, 10,000 down and then the payment, or 5,000 now and 10,000 later, or whatever, you're
Yes.
pretty much okay with either scenario, right?
Yes.
It's like they get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I usually come up with 2 to 3 offers when I walk into those situations. There are times where there's only one offer that makes sense. I try to give 2 or 3 to them. But that way they can choose what they want. So the longer they wait on their money, the more that they get at that point in time.
Sure. And reality is, once you get the property under contract, or once you get it under ownership, everything works in your favor over time for
A
you.
100%. Yep.
And so you're willing to pay a little more down the road, right? And just the time
Exactly.
value of money.
My
That,
goal is to not have to pay anything out right now. So
yeah, yeah,
that's always the
exactly.
goal, which works out sometimes. I've bought some pretty houses with literally no money.
That's
They're,
awesome.
they're rent ready, no money down other than paying for closing. And it even needed a new roof, and the seller, not only did the seller claim that on their insurance, they somehow ended up with $500 in their pocket from that.
Nice. So they made a claim, got a new roof as part of the sale before the ownership went to you.
Yep, put some money in their pocket, and that was still only about $1,200 out of pocket from me in closing costs only, and it rented immediately. It's a gorgeous house.
Man. Okay. For people thinking, how on earth does that happen? What was the motivation of that seller, that this was the perfect solution for them?
So this particular woman was in the military, and her husband was also in the military. They both owned houses in this city. They had gotten married and they were leaving. They had orders somewhere else. He had just gotten through selling his house the traditional way, and she's like, oh my God, he had to show his house constantly. He had to keep it clean. He had to go through, and he didn't get as much out of it. He actually had to pay at the end to sell it. He just listed out all the pain in the butt things that they have to go through to sell it a traditional way. And she's like, it's why I haven't even put it. She had to leave in 2 weeks. and she hadn't even put it on the market yet. She's like, I just have procrastinated because I don't want to go through everything he went through. And then she lists off all the stuff that he had to do because of the inspection objections, right?
Yep.
All the repairs he had to make through that.
Um,
And she's like, so you're telling me I don't have to make any repairs? You'll take over this immediately. You'll let me leave when I want to leave and I'm just done. And I was like, that's it. And she's like, done.
Perfect. So her big issue wasn't money. It wasn't trying to squeeze out the most profit. It was how do I get out of this pain of trying to sell the house,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you gave her an easy solution where
Yep.
she could get through that pain very quickly and make reduce the pain
Yep.
and move on.
Yep.
It really didn't cost her anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of scenarios like that. It's more common than you'd think. I joke about how I made my millions on pretty houses. I didn't have to do a ton of rehabs.
Yeah, that's true. I talk a lot about the BRRRR strategy where you're buying ugly houses and fixing them up,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And with your strategy and subject to and lease option, sounds like they're in great condition.
Yeah. And
So,
I'm not going to say, I mean, I've done my fair share of rehabs and had cockroaches and all those fun things. Don't get me wrong, but you can definitely make a living just buying pretty houses.
so what's a good way to like, how do you find somebody in that scenario where it's a pretty house, but they have some motivation, some pain point, and it's not necessarily money? Well, that scenario, it seems like a limited scenario that it perfectly fits for a subject to or lease up.
Um, we marketed a lot to military here, and then we did ones that had bought recently, so within the last couple of years, meaning they most likely didn't have a ton of equity, which does give them less options if they're wanting to leave. And a lot of these people do not want to rent out their houses. So that kind of creates the perfect scenario for me to take over those mortgages. And you, different areas of the country, this strategy works differently because in Colorado, we get a lot of appreciation here. So if we take over a mortgage that doesn't have a ton of equity, it doesn't matter as much as long as there's spread in the cash flow.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, you've seen massive appreciation in your,
Massive.
yeah.
Yeah.
So our areas, it'd be interesting to look at that model because my area is Dayton, Ohio. We have
Right.
a massive Air Force base, right? There's a lot of military. It's kind of cliche. All the people that I've talked to who became reluctant landlords because they were stationed somewhere else and bought a house and now they moved here or they're moving away and they have a rental here. But we don't have the massive appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
They're,
sure
they're
because of
just
the
going
low
to look for
prices,
more cash flow.
right?
Right.
And their mortgage payment's going to be low compared to the rent. So there would
Yes.
still be opportunity there. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So it's just different how you look at it in different areas. You're still going to have the pay down on the mortgage there, which is nice. So even if you don't have the appreciation, the mortgage will still pay down over time
right.
on top of the rent.
And a lot of times I'm sure you're skipping the part of the mortgage where there's not much pay down, right? They've owned the property for a little while, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, when you take over the mortgage, there is principal pay
Yeah.
down because you're far enough into it. Sure. And just the speed of acquisition. If you're buying a property that's in great condition and you just have to do a little bit to rent it,
Yes.
that's so much faster than buying an
Yes.
ugly property and doing a massive rehab
Uh-huh.
and the refinance process. So,
Yep. Yes. It's
sure.
very good. And it worked for me because going back to the whole, oh, she could do it, but maybe I can't. I was still running an SEO company at the time, and I had two little kids at home with me all the time. So this was something that I was doing in 2 to 3 days a week. It wasn't full time.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that is freedom, right?
Yeah.
And if you were doing that on the front end, it only gets better the longer you have them. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, I looked at my calendar today. I was like, oh, I have something.
I love it. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, what's not to love about that, man?
It is. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for Master Lease, that's like more unique thing too, is there a certain type of deal that fits a master lease? Does that?
No, I've done all different kinds. So I got my start at RIAs because the most trusting and willing people to let me get off the ground were other investors. They don't want to manage their own properties. They knew my style of management and really wanted me to do it. So when I opened that up, I had a flood. I had over 40 properties in the first summer.
Holy mackerel.
And that was all word of mouth. So when you get good at management, because they just knew how I took care of my own properties. And so when you get good at management, it's very easy to find those kinds of customers. I've had plenty of opportunities to purchase those investments from other people. Those don't always work out the same as like tired landlords do, but it was a great way to have great cash flow. Investors, so for people that are getting started, master leasing is a great way. Helps you learn your rental costs, helps you learn rents in the area, helps you learn. It was easier for me to flip after I had done all this because I knew the pricing of
Hmm.
flooring, of a hot water heater, of a furnace. You know what I mean? It was so much easier to do all those things. So it's very good for newbies to start with because they can slowly learn all the pricing. And with investors, they don't want to bug me. They just want me to do my thing. So it's not like they're hard people to manage for. If anything, they're just harder to get a hold of. But the nice thing is they don't bug me. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I love all my investor owners. But then you have a whole different pocket that you can go after, which are tired landlords. And so there's a lot of times reasons why tired landlords, a lot of them are done. They're done with the game, but they're not ready to sell. So if you go in there and give them an option to not sell, but still enjoy everything that they want to about having the rental, there's a lot of potential there. So those
Yeah.
two are
That's
really easy
automatically.
targets.
Yeah, automatically a good opportunity
Yeah.
where you can reduce their pain and they still get some of the benefits
Mhm. Yeah.
that they've been enjoying for years. Sharp. Does the master lease work well for like a short-term, mid-term rental model where they can increase the rent?
Yeah. One of my best students, she's in Ohio too, not Dayton. Melissa,
Hmm.
Yasnek, you know her?
Yep.
So she
Yep.
does it. And she took my master leasing class and turned it into midterm rentals. And she got 17 properties in the first 24 months and been able to severely reduce the amount that she works. She has more freedom, and now they're just working on getting those going so well that her and her husband can both quit and travel. That's a lot of
Yeah,
fun. So
that's
yes,
awesome. That's
yep,
huge.
it's huge.
Yeah. That has to feel good for you to know that your model
It's
helped her
awesome.
accomplish that, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right. So, for anybody listening, I hope from the conversation you've taken away that you can get really creative with the terms at which you buy properties. You don't really need your own money in the deal, right? And you can buy pretty houses that don't need a ton of rehab. The key is just figuring out what that seller's problem is and having a creative solution for it. I love it.
Yeah, of
So, Lindsay, for people, thank you very much for coming on. I love the
course.
conversation. I'm kind of like fired up. I'm ready to go do some marketing, try and find
Go do
these
it.
military gang. Um, but for people who want to find out more, learn more about your processes and techniques, how should they find you?
Yeah, they can go to my website for right now, which is cleverkittyinvesting.com. There's a whole other story behind that name, but cleverkittyinvesting.com. And then all of my socials are Clever Kitty Investing. And they're a little limited right now, but there's a lot of good stuff coming in the coming months. So go ahead and follow, and then you'll get deal analysis and all kinds of cool stuff coming out.
Awesome. So yeah, encourage everybody go to Lindsay's website, check her out on social media. She's the real deal, authentic, genuine person, and I've known her for a long time, and you'll be glad you did. So, all
Thanks, John.
right, yeah, everybody, thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you again next week, and until then, keep building your dream life one door at a time. All right, everybody, I have a really good gift for you to help you out. So, in recent episodes, we've talked about some really great partnerships we have that will help any of you get motivated seller leads, right? So, you'll get a text when they get the lead and they'll just give that lead to you. Or we have a direct mail partner who will help with direct mail to make sure you can reach the people that you want and get those leads contacting you. Okay, great services, don't cost any extra. Just make sure that your marketing is impactful and you get a return on your money. All right. So the gift isn't related to those. The gift is that some people are kind of nervous by the idea, those services are great, but now I get a seller on the phone and what do I do? What do I say? Right? And it's kind of intimidating. Everybody, when they get started, feels a little intimidated or nervous by it. And really, you just need a script so that you know what things to talk about with the seller on the phone. You don't have to think about it. You just follow the script, have a human conversation with the seller, take an interest in them, and follow the script. Just that easy. All right. And so the benefits of the script are you don't get distracted in the conversation. You can just follow the progression of that script, makes it super easy, can give you confidence so that you know what to say when, and it actually helps that seller know that you're professional and serious and you know what you're talking about. All right. So you can get that script at truewealthinvestors.com/call script and that will give you the free download so you can have that script. Then when that seller calls, you know exactly what to say. All right. I hope that helps, and I know it will. See you soon. We are adding new episodes every week, so make sure to follow and subscribe. If you are a real estate investor or want to get started investing and you want to grow or scale with our help, go to truewealthinvestors.com. That's truewealthinvestors.com and schedule a short discovery call. I'll look at where your business is and offer a proven plan to get you and your business to the next level. We'll see you on the next episode.